Broadcasting live from downtown Phoenix, your boys are fired up and locked in. It's time for Gabay and Yearout on Blaze Radio.
Welcome! Big shot!
Hello and welcome to Gabay and Yearout on Blaze Radio. I'm Eliav Gabay, and with me as always is my man Harley Yearout. Harley, it's a beautiful Friday, and I know you want to get into it, so I will not wait any longer. 5 TDs yesterday against a Vikings defense that is no joke, and he made them look like one yesterday. Jared Goff, I mean, I'll say this right off the bat. I thought last year when he was an All-Pro, like that was a pretty big deal, even though he kind of slipped in there. But people didn't really care. But yesterday, man, looked like he is the real deal. He really looked like the real deal. He was, I mean, those passes, some of them were just perfect.
When you look at this, just take a step back and you look at this Rams organization as a whole. It doesn't seem like that long ago where Todd Gurley had a terrible season. Jared Goff looked like a total bust. Granted, he was a rookie, so pump the brakes on that. But this has come together so quickly. I mean, look, we talk about having a good franchise and having good structure. Dak Prescott's rookie year was a perfect storm. A perfect storm that came together for him to have the rookie season he did, offensive rookie of the year, what have you. Ezekiel Elliott, rookie running back, a flawless offensive line that season. I mean, they were stellar. Dez was still here and there. Witten, was still producing. The defense wasn't great, and that's something that's kind of interesting. And then you look at last year, the Ezekiel Elliott situation that I think that really took a toll on the team as a whole. I was almost ready to give him a pardon for last year, just given how the team looked. This season, there's no excuse. There's no excuse. You have had a relatively easy schedule. And look, I mean, he was drafted in the 4th round. It's what he looks like.
I was about to say, that's what you're getting, right?
Yeah.
With him. And I didn't realize how reliant his success was on others. We knew that Zeke had something to do with it, of course, because when you have a back like that, again, just like Jared, when you have a back like Gurley, Zeke, it's going to make your life easier, just simple as that. And, of course, the O-line was terrific, and that's changed a lot at this point. But overall, I still thought that, with that short game potentially, finding his receivers that he likes, that it would still work out. But right now, it's really not that it's not going to work out. That's a bit extreme, but it's not looking nearly as successful as obviously we thought it could be.
Should the Cardinals use what Baker did last night and apply that to Josh Rosen?
I'm so glad you asked, Harley, because they absolutely should. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes. Let's stay committed to Sam Bradford. That is what these AZ Cardinals fans need. More Sam Bradford. Absolutely not. They are dying. Harley, they're dying for a breath of fresh air. I think our man Eric Ruby can attest to that. They're dying for a breath of fresh air, and Josh Rosen can be that breath of fresh air. That is what they need to be successful moving forward. I think Josh Rosen has the capabilities to step into this kind of role. I think he has the swagger to take on that pressure, if you will, when really, in my mind, there isn't much pressure. It's not like he's following up some kind of great act. If he's half decent, that's good enough.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good precedent, and Steve Wilkes should really see this as an opportunity to get some momentum on a team who really needs it.
The Cardinals are a bad football team all around. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people picked the Browns to be a sleeper playoff team. So obviously the Browns got a little talent in their organization now, as it is right now. The Cardinals, I want to see what they do on offense this week in the first half, because Steve Wilkes made it clear this week that David Johnson is going to get more touches. Exactly. One of the best playmakers in the NFL. They got to get him the ball. So I'm anxious to see how they come out in that first half, and if David Johnson can get something done and Bradford can kind of hang in there, I am okay with them. And again, they paid this guy $20 million. So it's kind of tough to say, all right, you're out of here after 2 games.
True. It's true.
But it'll be interesting. If he doesn't play well in the first half, I would expect Bradford to take a seat.
Mike McCoy right now, Harley, just lost his job, and for good reason.
Yeah.
For good reason. I mean, take it away. But I honestly agree with the decision.
No, of course. And you look at this Cardinals offense. Let's talk about it, as they say. I think McCoy was put in kind of a tough position, especially to start the season when you bring in a guy like Sam Bradford. who, when healthy, is a decent quarterback. I'm not gonna, not dissing Sam Bradford here. And then they also signed Mike Glennon. But keep in mind, they did draft Josh Rosen. So to me, it's kind of questionable why you went with Bradford for so long. But really, what I'm looking at here is the rushing offense. This team is dead last in NFL. I mean, this may actually be the NFL's worst offense. We'll see what it looks like now that McCoy's gone. But 69 yards last night. I think they average around 67 per game. With a guy like David Johnson, who you just gave all this money to, can't have that.
Absolutely. And I was about to bring up the fact that David Johnson, how many games this season do you think David Johnson has more than 20 carries, Harley? Give me a guess.
Honestly, I think maybe one. Without looking at the numbers, I would guess maybe one.
Well, you're a smart gentleman because it's one.
Wow.
Against Seattle. He had 22 carries. Other than that, all under 20. Wow. That right there is all I need to know.
Yeah.
You need to make this a run-centric offense when you have an all-star, well, all-pro in your backfield.
Yeah.
Or all-pro caliber, if you will, in your backfield. You have to. Rosen has an arm. We know it, But at the same time, you don't want to go all the way in with that being your offense, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You go with what is solid and what most makes sense. And sometimes I feel like you don't have to overthink it. It's easy to overthink sometimes, and obviously we're not NFL coaches. It's so tough. You want all these schemes, all these different sets, everything. You want to solve a solution. You want a solution to a problem, but sometimes it's right there. And I'm not saying the offense is about to explode if you give David Johnson the ball every time, but hey, I think it'll be more efficient. Dave Roberts looks like a gentleman when you bring in Ryu for game 1. He performs like that, and now you have Kershaw fresh for game 2.
So my question now is, we kind of discussed this last week about if the Dodgers snuck in, they Vegas liked them the most to make it all the way. What do you guys? I mean, I know Eliav, especially you're a big time Dodgers fan. What's your outlook now for them going forward?
That 163 was massive.
Yeah.
Because now the road to the World Series is as easy as it's been.
Yes.
They have no real excuse to not make it to the World Series now. Because you have the Braves, which, like Jacob said, it should be a sweep. It really should be a sweep. And then, no matter who you see, if it's the Rockies, the Brewers, you should win that game, that series, especially if it's the Rockies, in my opinion. And you have more experience than anyone you're going to see, period. The Cubs were the only team that could have challenged the experience side of things. So there should be no excuse to go all the way to the World Series right now. Of course, like we said, it's baseball. Things happen. Things change. But I'll tell you what, this team is getting hot at the right time, at the perfect time. Like, I'm talking like the past couple weeks time.
Yeah.
And that's what matters the most.
When it comes to Nike, this is not something particularly new to them. They have stood by controversial athletes in the past.
Oh, yeah.
And that's something I really wanted to make clear is this is, when Tiger Woods was out there cheating on his wife and doing all this other stuff, who stood by him? Who was the one brand that stood by Tiger Woods?
Yeah.
Nike. Kobe Bryant. He had his Colorado fiasco. Who stood by him?
Yeah.
It was Nike. So, Michael Vick, the dog fighting, who eventually came back to him. It was Nike.
And even if they I was about to say, even if there was a pause, it was almost like a suspension. They came right back eventually.
Yes.
And I do want to pose this. When you think about to a lesser extent what Nike has done, like they're always been against the man, for example, quote unquote.
Oh yeah.
Like with Michael Jordan. He was getting fined for wearing his shoes at first in the NBA. Okay, we'll pay it off. It's fine. We'll pay off the fines. Keep wearing our shoes.
Yeah.
Like so I totally agree with you. People definitely don't notice that enough. And then now there's a lot of people saying, and as we've seen social media go on a frenzy, literally. We've seen so many people lighting their Nike apparel on fire, lighting their shoes on fire on their own feet. Yes. I saw a video. People, can you get real for a second? It's not going to change anything. No. Okay? You're protesting a protest, essentially.
Yeah.
So that means, I get it if that's the way you feel, but excuse me, in my opinion, if I'm paid money for this stuff, at the very least, I'm going to sell it. I'm not going to burn it.
Exactly. Or I saw another novel idea on Twitter. If you are so for the military, why don't you give it to them? The other thing is people literally physically cutting their swooshes off their clothes. I hate to break it to you, you already spent the money.
Yeah,
okay?
exactly.
You are not doing anything here other than hurting yourself. And here's the other thing, Nike does not care.
No, they're not going to lose. They're going to lose some, maybe.
Maybe, but at the same time,
I don't think it's going to be anything that affects them in any grand way at all.
That timing comment in context, you look back to last year when Earl Watson was fired 5 games into the season.
Yes, exactly.
And now, Elio, you kind of touched on this. You're going to fire your GM after all the tanking, after all of it, after things are finally looking up, and you have your rookie guy in DeAndre Ayton. You got Devin Booker. The point guard thing is still really, really up in the air. Not kind of up in the air, really up in the air. The timing, as you guys both, it's just way off.
Yeah.
It seems off.
And like you were saying, I mean, it's not like he's learned from past mistakes, which is the scariest part. Like, did you not realize that firing your coach 5 games? And okay, a coach is different than a GM.
Agreed.
You see that you want to see it really come together, regular season. Okay, you want to see it. All right, fine. You fired the coach. Teams have made that mistake before, and teams have actually benefited from firing their coach midway a lot of times. Look at the Lakers. When they hired Pat Riley, midway through the season, they ended up winning the championship that year. So it's happened. It's been successful in the past. But with a GM, it's different because it's not like he made new decisions at any point. He had those decisions already in place. The team was in place. Everything was in place. And then they had some time, and then they fired him.
Yeah.
So that's what's confusing to me.
And Drew Brees, to me, is one of the most underrated quarterbacks that has ever played in the NFL.
I couldn't agree more.
Being a huge Tony Romo fan, I am a fan of underrated quarterbacks. And Drew Brees has 2 Super Bowl rings. He has the 3rd most passing yards in NFL history.
He's got a ring.
Yep.
And he's done it all, really. He's done everything you want out of an all-time QB. But for some reason, maybe it's his demeanor. Maybe it's that he's a quiet guy in general.
Yeah.
Doesn't bring too much attention to himself. He's in a city like New Orleans, which isn't huge.
I think
but it's known. It's just not a top market, so that might contribute to it. But consistently, when you talk about consistency, what more can you ask?
No, you really can't. And he needs just 201 yards to pass Peyton Manning for first all time. So, this guy's the model quarterback. Kind of undersized, but he can sling it, and he is as good as anyone. I will say he's as good as anyone that's ever played the quarterback position in NFL history.
Wow.
I would stack him up with just about anyone.
And I can't really, listen, when you think about that, it sounds kind of nuts, but when you really take a closer look, it's not that crazy.
Yeah.
It's really not that it's not that hot of a take. You're right.
Yeah.
You're just simply right.
Yeah.
He's just that good. And I know a lot of people would agree when you really take a closer look at the numbers and at just his success over the years with a team that hasn't always supported him talent-wise, skill-wise. He's still managed to keep the Saints relevant every single year, and now their defense backs them up, so that helps a lot too.
Absolutely.
And when you have those 2 combinations, you can win at any moment, at any time, any year. Michigan State, ASU. I'm not going to say I called it, and it was fantastic. ASU doing what they do. Herm really showing out as far as his coaching, and as well as, of course, Danny Gonzalez. What did you see in that contest?
Well, actually, it was, first of all, I saw a team that actually looks like it has some defensive identity, which is not something that I'm really used to seeing out of an Arizona State team.
Absolutely. And ranked for the first time since 2015, number 23. Yep. That's just historic to start with just off the bat, but the defense was clutch down the stretch. Those 2 massive sacks, and Lewerke is no slouch. And this Michigan State team is really no slouch. And ASU did their thing. And I agree, Manny could have been better overall, but the numbers do back him up to say, hey, I didn't have that bad of a game. And then, of course, N'Keal Harry was just doing some silly stuff down the stretch as well.
But one thing I think really kind of went under the radar, and is something that should have gotten more attention, I think, was the time management at the end of the game. How many times can you remember prior to Herm Edwards, ASU having to take timeouts while they were on defense in the 3rd quarter because they didn't know what they were doing? And we saw Michigan State kind of have those clock management issues where when it got down to the end of the game,
all Manny had to do was run up the middle and just knee it, center up the ball for the game-winning field goal. And ASU timed that out to the last second. It was crisp, pristine time management.
Yeah, and Rob Likens was talking about how he was drawing up plays for a touchdown, and Herm was like, you know what, the best play is victory, and and we saw that right there, and really truly, kind of like an NFL setup, a really pro style way of going about the final moments of a game, and like you said, that's not something we saw with Todd Graham.
Eliav,
I love the breath,
my friend. Last week I had a good week. I didn't have anything to come in here.
Right, yeah, you were happy.
I had to kind of like figure something out here, but this week this was easy. You guys in the LA media made this easy for me. You have the best player in the NBA, arguably the greatest player of all time, that you are covering now. You got to come with the good questions. The first question that really got under my skin was, how do you plan to earn the respect of LA fans? It is LeBron James. He does not have to earn the respect of anyone anymore, in my opinion. The second question is just lack of attention to detail. You're asking, first of all, why would you ask anyone about their practice number? To which, of course, he scoffs and says, I've been doing this for like the last 8 years. So, LA media, what are you doing?
You're on notice.
What are you doing? Bad questions. You know what? And you remember when LeBron walked out of the press conference? Be better tomorrow. Be better tomorrow.
All right, my goodbye is Mr. Tristan Thompson. Okay, all right, listen, TT. You can have all your fun. Yes, sure, you're right now the Eastern Conference champions. You're right. That's for you to have and to hold. You can say, take it away from us. We're the ones to beat. Sure. What I have a problem with is when you start calling out other teams and acting like nothing has changed. LeBron James left. That's a big deal, homie. That doesn't just, it's just like, oh yeah, no, we're good. It's like, just like, yeah, everything's fine, we're fine. Like, that's kind of like what I saw from Tristan Thompson. Just like, oh yeah, we're going to be cool. We're going to make it. We're going to be number one again. No, you're not. You're not. Don't call out the Celtics. Don't call out the Sixers. Don't. Because you're not better than either of those teams. So, of course, Tristan Thompson is not afraid of jabbing and jabbering. So I'm not totally shocked, but ridiculous.
Yep.
I'm annoyed by it.